Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing great today. Hopefully you had a good Halloween. Mine was pretty low key, but the Dodgers did manage to pull out a Game 6 win, so that was a good enough thing for me on Halloween. Today we are going to make some pumpkin pie pen blanks. Now, I usually make one called pumpkin spice, and because I was having some issues with the resin, I never got those ready, and I think we're kind of past pumpkin spice time. However, now that Halloween's over, it's time for Thanksgiving, and pumpkin pie is pretty similar, but a little bit different. I actually kind of had this blank in my brain when I was doing the pumpkin spice ones even. So it should be pretty fun. These are going to be going into I just went totally mind blank. The Pen Blank Club boxes. I'm also going to put these on my website because I missed the pumpkin spice ones. Usually I do those on my website. So it is going to be a double thing. Even if you're not in the Pen Blank Club, you will have an opportunity to grab some of these. But they are going to definitely go in the Pen Blank Club because we're going to be making them today and it should be pretty fun. I'm excited about it. Hopefully you guys are too. But on the website, it's going to be a pretty limited amount. So if you're not in the Pen Blank Club and you want to get one, make sure to get over to my website. I should have these up next week, probably, I think. So anyway, let's see. So let me know what you guys all did for Halloween last night. If you had any fun, if you did any cool things, if you had a cool costume, or let me know if you saw a really cool costume come to your door. We didn't have any. Gretchen went to her mom's house with her sister-in-law, and they did all kinds of who knows what over there. But they had the kids. She has like more kids come. It's really weird. My sister used to actually live in the neighborhood that I live in many years ago, and it was like they'd truck people in to her neighborhood back then, bus loads of kids. At this point, there aren't many kids there. I think that there's just way better neighborhoods. So I don't know, there's maybe a few kids that come around, but we don't even turn the lights on usually because Gretchen took the candy. So what am I going to give them? Pen blanks? That would be kind of funny though. So anyway, let's see here. So yeah, I heard there's a Turner's Warehouse stream going on too. So hopefully I'm not cutting into their stuff. Paul's back from Alaska. Nice. Welcome back. Let's see here. Who else is here? Joseph turned some blanks down and did some resin casting. That's good. That's a fun way to spend Halloween. I worked. I mean, we can put that in there. Yeah, I was going to watch. So if the Dodgers, I was gonna not watch the Dodger game, which would have been blasphemy pretty much. But I knew I had to work, and they're starting the game so early that I'm gonna miss an hour anyway because I don't get home until after 6. And then I had to cook dinner and all this stuff. But then I also had to work out. So the whole thing was just messed up. So I didn't end up watching The Shining. But yeah, go to my. Yeah, I know. Pen blanks. That would be a fun one for Turner's anyway. Oh, quarter, yeah. I know. Well, yeah, before we lived in Carson, we lived with these other people, and they were in out on kind of horse properties like that also. And I was kind of surprised when we moved in there. We thought, I don't know, I was thinking rich kids, but they're so spread out, all the houses, that nobody even goes there. You gotta maximize those, you gotta get to those, the rich neighborhood that's densely packed. That's how you gotta do it. Bone Crusher turned some pens. A lot of Turners turning on Halloween. I like it. That's fun. Did I just hear? Yeah. Although I don't have any pen blanks in my house, so. Anyway, so I did finish up the bell. I'm very excited about that. So I'll hold it up here, and then I'll do a kind of an overhead. It's kind of bouncing. Sorry about that. So I went with I was talking about doing kind of like a 3-inch handle, and I was looking at it and I was like, really, this bell is pretty small. I probably could even gone even a little shorter maybe, but I think the proportions are pretty good on this. I like how they look. And I got the top piece in, it screws together. You guys saw all that stuff. Now, one thing, I don't know if I mentioned it on the stream, one thing that I didn't account for or think about. Originally, I was going to try to mount the eyelet thing in the handle maybe, but you'd have to calculate that right. the tenon is like way shorter than the hole. So like, you know, so let's go overhead so I can kind of try to explain this. The hole in here is much deeper than this little nub. So I was like, oh, that's not going to work at all. So if you do a bell like this, keep in mind, you know, like this is something that had I done some like drawings, I would have known what's going on. And I do think actually, if you're going to do one of these like this with a handle 2-piece thing, I got to be honest, guys, I think this is probably an easier way to go. Because the problem is trying to mount an eyelet in a tiny bell and then wire stuff and do all, oh my God, it was not very fun. I hate doing all that kind of stuff. I think it'd be easier if you could get I don't know if actually that would work. You'd have to make sure that your little dongle thing would fit in the hole, and you'd have to make sure that the eyelet is small enough. That's not that hard, but I think it'd be much easier to mount all the stuff onto your handle and then just drop it down in. Now, you might even want to just go with a bigger tenon size, you know, like thread size. Like maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe like a 9mm, 10 maybe even like a 10, 11mm, something like that. Might be a little bit easier to deal with. I don't know. But I managed to get it, and all I did was I mounted the eyelet down in the bottom, and then I actually found these little jingle bell things, because one of the problems is this is plastic, so even if I put a little bell ringer thing, like it's just going to go click, 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 you know, it's not going to be very exciting to do that. So I found these little jingle bell doohickeys on Amazon, and so it'll actually kind of make a ringing sound. So that's kind of fun. It's a little, you know, it's not super awesome, but it's not like ringing, but it is jingle belling a little bit. And I went and found some really thin wire. I guess it's like 0.5mm for like jewelry making. It's super bendable because I'm not very good at knots, and I'm not good at getting my, you know, sausage fingers in a tiny hole and trying to figure all this stuff out. So what I did was I just kind of very carefully kind of looped that wire in there, just kind of twisted it around. I think the folks that are good at like tying flies probably would be a lot better at this than me. But I did manage to get it all in there, and I don't think it's going to fall out. I think we're good. And it all goes together, and I'm pretty excited. Can you hear that? I mean, it's not super amazing with the bell ringing, but at least it does something. So this guy will be up for auction soon. Pretty cool. I'm very happy with it overall. What do you guys think about that bell? And also, is anybody, you know, after watching this, are you like, oh, I could probably knock one of those guys out. I want to try that. Let me know if you guys, if it kind of made you think about trying to do it. All right, so there's that. Let's see what the comments are doing here. Putting a dongle thing. Yeah, I know. Sweet. So let's see here. Yeah, not too bad. So I got to get this thing shipped. I wish that I had more time. The problem was, as you guys, you know, everybody here knows, I was having issues with resin, and so we've solved the problem. There was definitely a moisture issue with that resin, because it doesn't, the temperatures have all gone down, and I've even done experiments. And if you just look at the difference between the new resin that I got and the old stuff, it doesn't behave correctly. It's weird. It's really weird. Something's going on with it. And at this point, after talking to Alumilite, it must be a moisture issue. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting, I just want to look at this. Hold on a minute, guys. Oh, no. Okay. I was wondering if they actually changed something, but I think what happened was there's on the big carboys, I think that there's like a breather hole, and I'm thinking that thing just I didn't close it all the way, and it just moisture got in there. So that's the only thing. It's only happened to me once ever in my life, like have that happen. I'm kind of glad it did. I'm not glad that it did when it did, because it really, really screwed me up. I was right in the middle of getting all those team color blanks going, and it just wrecked the whole thing. Like, I'm a month behind at this point because of that. However, now that I've had that happen, I can definitely spot that issue. And if I get it's really hard to explain or show. I'm trying to think if I had examples, and it's, you guys might look at me like I'm kind of crazy, but it was fuzzy looking blanks. Like, the colors just did not mix well together. And even mica powders, it was really weird. It looked, so like, here's kind of an example. Let me find a good example, like an example of a good one also. Well, I've got, let me try and pull a sample out. You guys are gonna be like, really? But it's enough to cause me annoyance. That's not even really a good example. Let me find a... That's a good example right there. Okay. These aren't the same colors, but I want to show this to you, because if this starts, if you witness this, so this is and granted, this isn't the worst pen blank on the planet, but do you see how these aren't like swirling together? These are like, it's like fuzzy on the ends. Like, it almost looks like a digital weird print. Where these things meet, there's like little fuzzes. And it should be like smooth lines, like this. Like, it was weird to me, what was going on. Now, all these, are these like the worst blanks on the planet? No. I mean, and they turn fine, but that's not what I want this to look like. It's just like the colors the resin doesn't mix together correctly when there's this moisture problem. So, again, I know that this is a little bit nitpicky, and you might be looking at me like, I don't really see the difference, but I definitely do. And I mean, I wasted probably 5 gallons of resin at least, trying to like figure out, and I thought it was like the temperature, or thought I was pouring wrong, or I didn't know what was going on basically, but it wasn't turning out the way I wanted. And so if you notice that, where like the resin just doesn't seem to want to blend, like, I don't know, like smoothly blend together, you might have a moisture issue. And so the way to combat that is just make sure, when you open your jug, don't leave it open, and make sure that when you're done with it, it's closed, like sealed. That's it. And like I said, this has only happened to me once. So anyway, just public service announcement. If you've got weird things going on, if it's behaving odd, another thing that I noticed is when I would mix it up, like I had all my colors in different cups, and I would kind of stir them up, like it would fizz almost. It would almost look like it was like it was very air bubbly, and they just never went away, kind of thing. And that's an indication of a moisture problem, because urethanes react with moisture by kind of bubbling. So a couple things to notice. I seriously doubt this is going to happen to you. The only thing that I would say is if you are in a very humid environment, even if you're dealing with urethanes, like I'm talking like super humid, like ridiculously humid, like Florida, South Florida in the middle of summer kind of thing. That kind of thing might happen to you because urethanes don't like moisture. So even if the ambient humidity is like ridiculously high, you may encounter those issues. So just keep that in mind. It's something, this is a weird one, that if somebody would have showed me pictures and explained this to me, I would have been like, I don't know, like I don't have a clue what's wrong with your blanks. I would have said, I think you're pouring wrong, which is what I thought it was. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, digital look, like weird, just a really weird one. Yeah, well, I may end up I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, it's not like your resin is like absolutely ruined. It's useless now. It's just, it's not going to work. Now, one way that you can, if you did have, let's say you had like a gallon left or something like that, one thing that you can do is just put glitter, one color, those types of things. Even clear is fine. There was no issues. I actually poured a batch of just clear blanks and they were fine. They were totally clear. So it's not that the resin's totally useless. It's just if you're trying to swirl colors together, even mica powders, the micas were just looking terrible. I was like, what is wrong with these things? Let me see if I can find I think I might have trashed some of these. And it's, like I said, it's not, well, here's a pretty good example. Fuzzy looking, guys. Fuzzy is how I really felt about this. Here's a pretty good example, and this is exactly the same color. So here's the one that was bad, and you can see it's just not smooth. It's fuzzy looking. I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. It just doesn't look right to my eyes. The way that these colors, the way the resin is kind of mixing together is wrong, especially at the end, which the crazy thing is this is the top of the blank and so it should be setting up and like even like thicker chunks, but it's all like just bleh. Not really, not just wrong, just off. I mean, compare that to this. That's like smooth. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but it just isn't behaving properly. Bad, good. So anyway, just to let you guys know, if you are experiencing odd results, you may have gotten some kind of a weird, and I'm not even 100% sure. I'm guessing it's a moisture contamination. That's the only thing that I can think of. They're unique. Digital pen blanks, fuzzy looking pen blanks. So anyway, Jake Thompson's here. I missed the show this morning. Sorry about that, dude. Man, I've been working out a lot more lately, and I was just exhausted this morning. I slept in, so I missed it. Sorry, man. But anyway, let's do some pumpkin pie pen blanks. We got to do a poll. I think I've done this before. Let's start a poll. So here's the poll. I love pumpkin pie, yes or no? I love pumpkin pie. It's one of my favorites. I know a lot of people like pecan pie, like especially, like for Thanksgiving time or holidays. Let me know if you guys love the pumpkin pie. I love it. It's one of my favorites. I will say at this point in my life, so like if you asked me when I was like, 15, 12, 10, 8, younger, I would have, what's your favorite pie? Pumpkin pie. It wouldn't even have been a question. At this point, I'm a huge blueberry fan at this point in my life. I love them. They're like the perfect fruit, and I love a good blueberry pie. So it's up there too. I don't know. Key lime pie also. So there's a lot, it's maybe not as like the number one totally for me, but it's when Thanksgiving rolls around, we hit Costco, we get one of those gigantic pumpkin pies, and I go to town for days, and it's good. So let me know what you guys think. All right, so let's go to the overhead view. We're going to be doing a beast. We're going to do the 12 blank mold. And again, you guys can get these things. It's linked down in the description. But the 12, if you want to do the 12 blanker, it definitely works well. I will say, I bought these and it may look a little bit kind of scary at first. Don't feel bad because I kind of didn't do 12. I'm like, dang, 12 blanks, that's a lot. Do I have enough time? Is there, all these kind of things. If you're using clear slow, you got plenty of time to get 12 of these guys poured, unless you're really very, very careful about how much you're pouring on each one. But if you don't waste time at all, and I think even if you're pretty slow, no problem with this 12 blanker. I think you'll have good luck with it, and you get 12 blanks. I mean, that's way better than the 6 that I used to get out of the bricks, right? That's twice as many blanks, and it's literally the same amount of resin. So not a bad way to go. Now they do have the 6 blank guys at P-Town. I think I'm going to probably discontinue the Gatling molds completely. I'm not sure that round and 1 more blank is necessarily that useful, and I'm going away from using them myself, so they're probably not going to be, I'm probably going to discontinue them. But you got a couple different choices. You got 6, you got 12. There are other mold makers out there that make different configurations and all that stuff, but you can get these guys at Turner's Warehouse. I believe I think they're out of the 6 blank size, but you can get those on the P-Town Subby website. That's who makes these, Fred Wisson over there. So anyway, not too bad, not too bad. And they also have the tall boys, if you want to do the tall boys. So let's see here. Banana cream, that's not too bad. Apple and, yeah, cherry pie is really good too. Yeah. Apple, not really my favorite, I gotta be honest. It's fine, I'll eat, you know, it's not like it's bad or anything. It's just cherry versus apple, I mean, that's not even a question. All right, so today is, oh man, it is November already, guys. November 1st. Welcome. Yeah, P-Town, Fred does some really good stuff. And you know, they do the mica powders. I really love their micas. I love eye candy as well. I really just love the fact that I can get this giant jar also. Plus their colors are good. I mean, I wouldn't buy mica powders based on how much I can buy at a time. That would not even be a consideration, but I do enjoy the fact that I can get a pretty big jar of it and not have to just keep buying it. All right, so we're doing pumpkin pie. Now I've got a little bit of a special blend that I'm going to use. So here's the game plan. What we're going to be doing here, obviously we're doing an orange. Now I was kind of sifting through my drawers. You can use the tangerine. Tangerine's not too bad. It's maybe a little bit orange. If you wanted, you could maybe try to like dull this. Like there's different ways to approach colors with mica powders. And sometimes one way works and other times the other way is the best way to go. Now, the one way is you just go and find, especially when you're dealing with like eye candy, they've got every color under the sun. So the problem is trying to figure out what it's going to look like really in person off their website based on their little color swatches. That makes things really difficult. You may need to get like a sample or small, you know, versions of like a range of them to find the one that you're really looking for. But they've got almost every color you could possibly want, right? I was looking in this Shibuya orange. I thought looked pretty good for a pumpkin. And you can't really just look in the jar necessarily, but it's a little bit duller and a little darker. So I think that's going to be a pretty good pumpkin pie. Tangerine's similar. It's not like super bright. It's a little bit dull as well. So it works pretty well. But so I was saying you can just try and find the perfect color, or you can mix them a little bit. Now, you'd have to do a lot of kind of testing and stuff and mess around. I think if you wanted to go for more of like a burnt orange or something like that, kind of bring it down, bring the browns in, you could add a little bit of brown and like mix it up, like create your own mica basically. The problem is it's going to be very touchy. Like you'd have to put like the tiniest amount of brown in there. And you could just mix in, you know, like a brown mica powder or something. So that's another way to go. It's going to make you have to sit there and mess with it and play around with different stuff. If you can find the right color and just buy the jar, it is going to save your time significantly in most cases. Now, the other thing is sometimes just mixing 2 mica powders together doesn't really produce the what you would expect the color to be. It just doesn't work. You can't get it. I don't know. I can't think of a specific instance or like a specific color, but I have tried to get this, and I remember I did it on a stream, and I'm like mixing these things together, and it just did not work. Like those 2 colors in like any other, you know, medium mixed together would give me exactly the result that I want, and it's a simple one, and it didn't work. So Sometimes it doesn't work with mica powders, but a lot of times it does. You can kind of mix and match your colors, and you know, it helps to have like a color wheel if you've never really done that before. And try to see, like, okay, if I had green, what, you know, if I add blue. Now this isn't, you know, perfect and all that stuff, but if you're not used to mixing colors and what, you know, this plus that equals, these color wheels do come in handy. You can also kind of look and see, like, oh, you know, if I add like black or white or something like that, how is that going to affect the colors? It's not perfect. I mean, there's no thing that's going to tell you, you know, if you add two teaspoons of shibuya and 1 teaspoon of brown, like, what's it going to do? It's, you know, it's just a helpful, a little bit of a help kind of thing. Now, like I said, I've got a custom color that I mixed together. I'm not going to tell you what the mix is because it is proprietary, kind of. But I've got something that should mimic the pie crust. It's kind of like a light tan, you know, kind of thing. So I kind of pre-mix this using, again, using what exactly how I said. Like, I mixed a few mica powders together to create my own blend. And it should hopefully produce a kind of a pie crust, you know, like that tan color with some pearl. And then, of course, you got to have the whipped cream, so we're going to go with Snow White. So that is going to be our mixture. It should be pretty fun. Let's see here. Jen is a walking color wheel. Which Jen? You got to tell me which Jen. I'm pretty good at colors at this point. The team colors, obviously, I have to understand, you know, and it can get finicky with these things. Another thing that set me back was I messed around with the just to be clear, and I'm going to kind of stop and do the face, you know, this is serious. Just to be clear, you know, I do all the team color blanks, and some of them are inspired by, well, they're all inspired by something, right? But there's no way to match a color. What I found, I could not figure out what the actual Alabama Crimson was for the University of Alabama, because if you look at pictures, it is like a broad spectrum of colors, and pictures don't work well because if the white balance is off, or there's a million ways that pictures, like if you just Google image search, pictures can be like all over the board. The camera, the editing, and then your screen all are fighting against you to tell you what color, what shade it is. So it's almost impossible to be like, oh, it's on my screen, let me see if this pen blank looks right. It doesn't work. You have to do, the best way to go is to have like an actual sample of something. And I was trying to figure out, somebody complained a little bit or was like, oh, this doesn't really look right for the Alabama. Now, what I was going to say is, disclaimer, it's based on the Alabama colors, but it matches a whole range of other teams. And so a lot of times my blanks are not meant to be like an exact perfect match for one team. Some of them are, I'm trying to do that, but you're never going to get it perfect. So if you're in this position and you're trying to match colors, get it as good as you can, where, you know, you're like, this looks like what I was going for. But even your eyes can screw you up. The other thing is, when you're looking at things, the lighting conditions that you're under can screw things up. But the best way to go is to actually have a physical object that you're matching whatever your pen blank to, right? So I want to show you, and hopefully it'll come through on the screen. I was trying to kind of match Alabama because someone was like, this isn't really right. And I was like, I don't disagree. I'm not sure what the right color is though, because it's tough. So I went out and I literally bought one of these helmets, right? And I do think that it's pretty close, but it's very dark. Much darker than most of the other things that I've seen. And then I also bought a sticker. These are not even in the same range. This is like orange almost, where this is like burgundy, the helmet. And it may not really come through on the screen, but I mean, in person, they're not even close. And I was like, well, that's unhelpful. So that was another thing that kind of set me back. I was working on that for a while, and I finally come up with a color that I think is a good enough match for what I was going for. But it's tough, guys. It's really tough. All right, so let's see here. 7 out of... Oh, you just popped 7 out? Nice, I like it. I like it. Jim's working on the fourth iteration. You pitched the first three. Oh, man. Oh, made a bad cut. That's no fun. Oh, Jen from cartoons. Okay, I see. I was like, which Jen are we talking about? Yeah, secret squirrel mix. So anyway, like I said, just to, if you're trying to get a specific color, guys, it's tough. And at the end of the day, you need to just be happy with it. And if somebody complains, you say, well, that's the color. Sorry, you know. The problem that you can run into is your, like if you're in a customer situation or whatever, you're making it for somebody else. The problem is they have the same issues. So they may be like looking at their screen, or they have this one thing like a t-shirt or something, and they're like, well, that's not the right color. Well, if you're not trying to match it to whatever they are looking at, then you may run into problems. And I think a lot of these schools and different things have an official color, and they don't actually really use that in real life. It's slightly different. The other issue that you run into is there's different materials. Plastic is going to look different than a t-shirt, is going to look different than paper. And these are all different colors. They literally, there's no standardization across every single thing on the planet. So don't get too hung up on it, and you'll be better. All right, so we're going to do, let's see here. We're going to use the Gatling mold. Or not the Gatling. I had that in my mind. We're using the Beast, the 12 guy. And I always mix up 550 grams. Gives me a little extra. That's going to be 275. Let's see. And I mix up, so I'm going to use a separate, bigger mixing cup to mix it. But then you got to account for a little bit of waste that's going to stay on the edges. So I mix up 280 times 2. For these Beast molds, and then we're going to do 3 colors. Now I want mostly orange. You know, you don't, well, me as a child and even as an adult, I do smother my pie with whipped cream, but you know, usually you're looking for like a dollop, so we're going to do a little bit of an accent kind of thing with the white, and then the crust will be a little bit less than the pie, the pumpkin. So we're going to kind of go for like a 45, 35, 20%. And that adds up to 100 eventually, if you do the math right. So let's see what we got. So we got about 250 grams for the pumpkin, the orange. And we're going to use the Shibuya. They have the craziest names. And then you got to try and write it down. Shibuya, 250, we're going to need probably about 1.5 let's see, 300. About 1.25 teaspoons or so. So 1 to 1.5 teaspoons. I usually, at this point I've kind of gotten, and it depends on which mica powder and color and all this stuff, but typically to get a blank opaque, pretty much opaque, probably not going to see the tubes. My kind of rule of thumb, or my initial thing at this point, is 1/2 teaspoon of mica powder to 100 grams of resin. So technically this would be like one and a quarter. But we'll see. 1 teaspoon might be enough. It kind of varies. But that might be a good rule of thumb for you too, if you're looking for one. So we're looking at like 190 and 0.2, 110. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a little easier on the numbers. I'm just going to go 250, 200, 100. Very simple. So we're going Snow White. Probably add a little bit of white dye to that too. Let's see. Yeah. Maybe like 0.5 gram of white dye. And then for let's see, the crust is my special crust mix. And we'll go with 1 teaspoon of that. That might need, actually that should be pretty good. We'll take a look at that, 1 teaspoon or so. All right, so we got our recipe here. And let's see here. Pudding. Huh. Pumpkin pie. Pudding. Instead of dinner? Pumpkin pie is the dessert in the U.S. Tennessee orange dye has been on sale this football season. I'm not sure what do you mean by that? Are they not good? I mean, I'm doing live streaming on Saturdays, so I don't know what's happening in the college football world. Okay, so let's get this going. I'm gonna get some gloves on. We're gonna be using slow, Alumilite clear slow resin. And I'll probably, and I'm gonna use, I've been kind of playing around with different like little mixing stick things. You guys know that I usually do a little hook, and then sometimes I have little bends. This has been working pretty good. The one thing I will say about doing 12 blanks, if you are going to use a stir stick, that adds more time. So, you know, having to do 12 of those, just kind of factor that in a little bit. And I do kind of find that those like bumps, when I have it all kind of bumpy at the end of the stick, it's not necessarily, I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily even helps that much, you know, having all those different things going on. So straight's a little bit easier, gets things done a little quicker, especially on, you know, these 12 blank molds. I do kind of think that you get a little bit of a different thing if you're doing like, if you have the hook versus just a straight one. The straight one just kind of, it tends to pull more. So you got kind of, it mixes it up a little bit, but the lines are kind of up more. Where if you actually go down in and spin this, you get a little bit more of that kind of side to side thing with the hook. It tends to pull stuff a little bit more. So just a couple things that I don't know, like the fluid dynamics that are going on, I don't even know exactly. It really depends on a lot of things, factors and stuff sometimes. But let's see, I think we're gonna probably pour this at, I think like 100 degrees. Let's just see how that goes. I'm going to kind of look and see what's going on. And it's 69 degrees in the shop. Okay. Got that guy ready. You guys can see what's happening. Get this all straight for you guys. Oh, it's used as a main meal. I see. All right, so 275, 280, 280 grams to sneak up to that 80 there. Went way over. That's okay. We'll have a little extra for something. There was no sneaking going on there. So about 284 plus a little bit. I'll sneak a little better with the part B. All right. And I forgot to get, let's see here. So let's get our cups going. 250, 200, and 100. And I can let that just sit there for a second here. So we're going to get our teaspoon out. I'm going to, well, that jar is pretty small, so we're going to use the half teaspoon to get into this orange. So I need 1 teaspoon to 1.5. So I may have to add a little bit more. I'm just going to kind of do a thick second scoop. So we're probably at about 1.25 or so with the orange. And that should probably be good. I think I'm not that worried about it. Emil is here. How's it going? All right, so we got our orange ready. And we got the super secret pie crust mix. And I need 1 teaspoon of that. I think that's going to be a good pie crust. I hope. I hope it is anyway. I don't know. Either way, I mean, worst case scenario, if it doesn't look exactly like pumpkin pie, I still think it's going to be a pretty cool looking blank. And then 1/2 teaspoon of the Snow White. That worked out good, using the 1/2 teaspoon. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of white dye to this Snow White. It'll make it a little bit whiter and more opaque. So we'll get this stuff mixing here. Yeah, so going back to the pumpkin pie, what meal? It would be dessert. It's a sweet dessert, like apple pie or cherry pie or any of those things. So I was just looking at the poll up there. It looks like 74% like the pumpkin pie. That's good. It'd be terrible if it was only like 10% and I'm making pumpkin pie blanks. Everybody would be like, I don't really want those. There are a lot of people that don't. I don't know. Definitely when the pumpkin spice thing, the pumpkin spice lattes and all that, everything pumpkin spice flavored. There's definitely I would say almost a 50-50 division with those people. Maybe there's more people that like it, but there are definitely some people that absolutely hate it. And I always laugh. All right, so that ought to be mixed well. And then I'm just going to measure out these guys. You don't have to measure, but I like to. Keeps me on track, you know. And it helps me recreate things. Keep them. Now, I've got a little extra, so I'm just going to pour some extra in some of these guys. I added too much resin at the beginning. That's cool, though. We're going to have a pumpkin pie happy fun burl. And 200 in here. A little extra crust. There we go. And then we got our white. We want 100 in there. So again, the white is a little bit more just like an accent kind of color. Now, one thing that you could do, I'm probably just going to swirl these around and do all that. One thing that I don't do a whole lot of is kind of like split up colors in a blank. I usually end up kind of mixing whatever colors I'm doing fairly evenly throughout the blank, you know, somewhat. Like we'll have white all the way through it, you know, somewhat. Now, one thing you could do is you could, you know, maybe do like the tan on the bottom, and it's not going to work out. If you're dumping it into a hole, it's not like it's going to stay tan on the bottom, but probably the majority would stay in the bottom. Now, because I'm going to add a little white dye to this that would make it really heavy, I would probably go the opposite route where I'd pour the white in first, then the orange. Like if you wanted it to sort of look like you had like the whipped cream on the top kind of thing. But I would do it in reverse where, like I said, the heaviest thing would go in the bottom. Then I'd pour the orange on and then the tan. You could do that. It never, like I said, you're not probably not going to get it to like stack like that and stay stacked. It's still going to kind of mix together, kind of depending throughout the blank. But if you pour carefully, you should get separations. You know, it's not going to be heavily orange on the top at that point. So you can do that kind of thing if you want. Like I said, I don't tend to do that. I think part of the problem why I don't really do that is if I was going to do that, I would want the blanks to turn out a certain way, obviously. And there's no guarantee that that's going to happen in the first place. So if my intention gets completely thrown out the window, then I would be disappointed. And I don't really want to make products like that. It's much easier, let's just say, to just say, well, my intention was it's supposed to just be a swirl. So I would feel bad if people got stuff that didn't turn out that way, let's say. But if I wasn't going for that, you know, something like that, then I don't have to, it's not on my conscience, let's say. All right, so we got that white mixed up. I'm going to add, like I said, just a little bit of white. Like, I don't know. Maybe not even 0.5. Maybe like 0.2 or 0.3. I'm going to see what that looks like. You don't really need a lot. It'll make it a little bit more white. Yeah, that. If you put too much dye in, then you're going to lose your pearl. If you're doing that, you know, with mica powders. So just be aware of that. If you put in like 3% white, you know, or something like that, some pretty big number, it's really not going to look very pearly at that point. I'm going to go a little bit more. Come on. But you can make it a little bit more on the opaque side if you add a little bit more. So we'll do like 0.4 grams. And it depending on which dye you use, like the liquid pigments that I use are pretty white. Alumilite's a little bit duller, I would say. They're white dye. Or it's a little bit more dilute. Maybe as white, it may be the same color white. I mean, they all use titanium dioxide. That's what white dye is. But I think there's a little less pigment in it, in the Alumilite one. So you'd have to add a lot more. You should eat dessert first. Well, then it'd be an appetizer. What do you guys think about that for the crust? Nice light gold, kind of golden color. I think that's pretty good. I like that. Wasn't 100% sure. I haven't used that mixture for a while. I like to mix this up real well. I don't want to have little clumps of mica powders. So a lot of times you can kind of mix it in, give it one round, and then let it sit. And then if there is some unmixed in mica powders, they tend to float to the top. You just don't really like to see those clumpy micas. Nobody likes the clumpy micas. What do you guys think about this for the pumpkin pie? It's a little bit bright, a little bit on the bright side. Like I said, you could maybe tone this down by adding, you know, something like a brown or something like that to it. But I mean, it would have to be like a tiny amount. And I don't really have the desire to mess with it. I think that's pretty good. Like I said, it's a little bit, this color is just a little bit on that. It's starting to edge into like a burnt orange kind of color, I feel. There are other ones that are just a lot brighter orange. I forget which one from eye candy Turner's carries. They might carry a couple. I'm going to look it up. Let's see. What's the temperature out? 92. I can maybe pour it like 95. Kind of looking at the viscosity. You can get away with a lot more with mica powders than those liquid pigments typically. This is looking pretty good. I still think 100 is probably going to be good, but the one thing is you have to balance all these things. I'm pouring 12 at a time. I'm going to be stirring them all. And if I pour too late, if I start pouring these things later, or, you know, like at too high of a temperature, then I run the risk. I think I'm perfectly fine with the numbers that I'm talking about, but like if I started pouring this at like 115, no way am I going to get it all poured and do all, you know, one at a time, stir all these things up, right? Like there's no way. By the time I get to this thing, it's going to be so thick and like setting up on this little stick. So, you know, 100 I think is going to be perfectly fine. There may be a little bit, like 95 may be the sweet spot though, right? That may be like the perfect timing. So I think I'm going to we're at 98. I think we're going to go for it at 98. That's in between, right? All right. Got a little bit of white. Now keep in mind, you got to, if you're trying to go for kind of evenly dispersed, I got a lot more orange than white, especially. So you might think about that when you're pouring. You probably end up having to pour a little bit more orange. And that's kind of what we want, right? We want more orange in these things. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys can see down in there. This one's almost full already. And then this one's like way at the bottom. So, you know, I find that it's going to turn out chaotic no matter what you do. I'm going for a little bit thicker blob. I didn't really get a whole lot of white in this one, but that's okay. In fact, I'm going to go for a little bit more of this white in some of these. Just 'cause. Why not? And we'll get a little bit of pie crust going here. Top off most of these, but all right. Now, I'm actually going to wait a second. I'm going to do I'm going to do my extra over here really quickly. Do a couple back and forths with the orange and the tan. Okay. Now, let's see here. Let me get a little of these guys. And I like to get one finger kind of slippery. And then we'll just go down in, and then we'll come back up. Very simple. I'm pretty excited to see how these guys turn out. I don't know what kit I'm going to put on these. So next week we'll turn them up, turn one up. See how they turned out. I think they're going to be winners. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. Wipe off that stick there. My finger's unstuck as well. And then we'll pop this guy into our pressure pot. And I'm going to take it up to 60 psi. That's the working pressure that my pot operates at. So if you're using a pressure pot, make sure you're not exceeding what the manufacturer recommends. If you stay within the lines, everything will be good on your pressure pot. It's when you overpressurize them that they tend to not work too well, and possibly they could fail. So you don't want that. But the good news is I've never heard of anybody ever who has had a pressure pot fail on them as long as they're using it within the pressure range that you should be using that pot for. I do know people that have had failures, and in every single case, they were over the pressure limit on their pot. Or in some cases, I know of people that actually modified their pot, because that's a good idea. And that didn't work out too well for them. Luckily, nobody got like super injured or anything like that I know of. But just keep it within the safe limit and you're good to go. Okay, so got all those things cleaned up. I like to clean up all those little implements and things because then I can reuse them right away. Immediate malt. All right, so let's get back to the intro view. And let's see what you guys are thinking about these guys. Let's see here. New Zealanders eat dessert first then. Chris, how's it going? I'm doing good. Doing pretty good. Elements copper. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I actually have one. I think I know what I'm going to do. And since, like I said, today's going to be kind of a quick one. Luckily, I figure we'll do a little bit of balance. I was like 4 hours last week. Let's just kind of do a quickie this week. But I have, let's see here. I've got something that I think might be cool. I wish I had. I don't have what I thought originally. What did I bought? Let's see here. Hold on a minute. One of my favorites is the Cigar Ultimate. But I thought that I got a satin white or satin silver or something, satin white. I don't know if it's satin white or what, but I do have a Zen that is the satin silver. Actually, that is like a satin pearl or something like that, which is what I wanted actually. So I'm thinking I might go with the satin pearl thing, whatever this thing is, because it's got the white, and it reminds me of. I'm hoping that there's a good amount of orange in these things, but I was thinking if I went with a satin white kit, it would be kind of like the dollop of whipped cream. And technically, I probably could have not. You know, if I was engineering this blank, I might make it mostly, you know, just the orange and, well, only orange and tan for the crust, and then maybe go for something like this. But I think that might not be a bad way to go. And I love Zens. I don't know. Let me know if you guys, what do you guys think about the Zen kit? It is absolutely one of my favorites. I love how quick the thing is, but it's also a roller ball. They're pretty simple. So that's on the, you know, that's up there on the top 10. Let's see, do I have, the other problem is, do I have an element? You said, what did you say? Brass? Oh, copper element. You know, the problem I have with the copper element is it doesn't have a copper. Oh, this one might. For a while, yeah, it doesn't have like a copper. Oh, I don't know. That looks like copper. For a while there, they had just a gold, or it was weird. I don't know what was going on with the clip, but it didn't match. And I'm like, this is not. I don't like this. Oh, it is copper now. I think they heard me complaining. That looks like copper. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the white, that satin, whatever that is. Technically, the thing says satin. Oh, satin silver. Yeah, I don't know, guys. This is satin silver, and this one says satin silver on it. This, I think, is like satin white, satin pearl, or something like that. It's a different. Those are two different colors, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but one of them looks like brushed silver. This one looks like the kind of pearl or the white to me. I don't know. Kind of like that better. I don't know though. I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Let me know. Yeah, Zen are good for the whole blank. Definitely too. Did I use leftover fuzzy moisture resin in dump cup? I probably did on some of them. I might have chucked some of them. The other issue, so that actually is that brings up a good point about the fuzzy, the moisture issue in resin. So here's something else to keep in mind, and this is something that I found. I think I chucked most of them I realized what was going on. I was using it because I didn't really see any problems. However, in the extra pour cup, I'm not pressurizing those. If you've got moisture, what's happening is, like I was saying, it creates even more like air bubbles. And so I think that I chucked most of them because of that fact, but it literally, in some cases, like foamed. They were kind of messed up. I think I chucked most of those actually. But I've got 20, so like 2 boxes of those. I'll just pull them over since I got them right here. The faux burls, the over pours. I'm gonna be adding 2 of them to my website because I got them filled up here. So I'll just show you what's going on. But you know, because I don't pressurize them, there's already going to be air bubbles in them, right? And I claim that they're not pressurized; they're just an extra thing. I've turned quite a few of them. I never found them to be problematic if you know what's going on, right? You can kind of fill any little pinholes if you want, and they're just cheap. It's just a cheap way to use some of the leftover resin. But I should probably. But when you've got a resin that wants to foam anyway, that's not a good mixture. And I just wanted to mention that they will be kind of prone to more air bubbles if you've got a moisture issue in your resin. So that is the one drawback to keep in mind. Like I said, if you do find that there's maybe some sort of a moisture issue, obviously do the testing, turn them, do all the stuff and see, make sure that they're operating correctly. They're not like really brittle or something weird is going on. As long as they turn fine, then it's just a matter of the looks of them, which shouldn't be that big of a deal necessarily, right? However, if you don't pressurize them for some reason, that's where you could really have some issues with your blanks. But I found, all of the ones that I pressurized were fine, totally fine. They just didn't, they looked weird. That was the problem. Satin silver, satin chrome. Those two words sound very similar to me. Did I say, so satin silver? Yeah, they both say satin silver on the thing. So I don't know. One of them looks white to me. Much more like a pearl white kind of thing. Mark's here. How's it going, Mark? Hobble Creek. Let's see here. Yeah, you better. I mean, I don't make modifications to a pressure tank. It's just not gonna work. I don't think. You would have to be I don't know who would be qualified to do that, but none of us are. So don't mess around with it. I mean, I knew somebody that like welded something on it and they're like, it blew up. And I'm like, really? Did it blow up on you? You welded the top of it. Did I show you guys the overhead of these things? I don't know if I did. So I got two batches that are coming due. And like I said, they're really fun. Most of these are going to be team colors because I've been trying to get those things stocked up. But I do have a few. This was from when we did we did this on the stream. A little bit of copper and that kind of peacock looking color. But they're really fun. I enjoy these guys. We got that one, and then we got this batch. Got a couple of abalone tops in here. So anyway, be looking for those if you're interested. And what these are, it's ready to be recast. I guess I don't have a. So you get yourself well, you could do like a handle if you wanted, but a 1.5 inch PVC pipe. You just pop it in there. It's a little tight there. Sometimes there's a little bit of extra stuff that you might need to just kind of sand. Yeah, there it is. There's just a little bit of extra stuff that you might want to sand off, but they fit pretty much perfect in a 1.5 inch PVC pipe, and then you can put clear or add whatever you want on. Obviously, you'd probably want to see the burl caps, so something transparent. But you can recast these and make them, and they're super cheap. I think, how much do they cost? I think they're like $10 on my website. Let's see. I'm not trying to profit. I'm just like, oh, these are kind of fun, and maybe somebody will, enjoy these things, do something cool with them. Let's see, where's my no, yeah, $10. So you get 10 of them. You get a $10 for $10. You get a box of 10 of these guys, and then, like I said, you can recast and do whatever. But it's just kind of fun because you can see like it's whatever the pen blanks I'm making. I put the excess in these guys, and so you got a bunch of random overpours. That I just thought it'd be kind of a fun one for if you want to recast them. I don't really want to recast them myself and make like stoppers. I don't know. I think it's more fun to let you guys let the person figure out what you want to put on top of it, basically. And you might even put other colors on. Who knows? If you don't really care so much about seeing the burl cap things. You can make an even more colorful stopper. Or like I said, you could go for like a handle blank, 1.5 inch handle of some sort. But it fits perfect in the 1.5 inch PVC. You may, like I said, you may need to, there may be a little bump or something on the side that you need to kind of scrape off. But I think that PVC pipe's a little bit old. It has some stuff on it. All right, so I think that's about it, guys. Let's see. Let's close down the poll. 75% of you like the pumpkin pie. I like it. I like that. And I definitely don't blame the people that don't like it, because it is a very specific flavor. I could definitely see how some people are like, yeah, no, I'll pass on that one. It's very, I don't know. If you don't like that kind of flavor, then I can see why you don't like it. I guess. So won't separate with moisture. With moisture. So you probably missed what we were talking about. I was having issues with my resin at the beginning, well, in like August. And what I'm pretty sure is that it was a moisture issue. And I'll just bring back those examples again. The problem was, here's a good one. I'll bring a couple examples to kind of compare what I expect and what was happening. So there's a 1-to-1 match. I got some pretty good 1-to-1 matches here. Like the exact same blank, 2 different pours, one not what I wanted. So if you're looking for certain team colors and they're like out of inventory on my website, it's because I'm playing catch. I'm about a month behind. So this was, let's put it on the right camera. This is what was happening. This is what I was getting peak summer. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just like the temperature's too much, or I don't know. But if you look at this, it's like fuzzy looking or digital. I don't know. It's not smooth swirls. Like there's weird stuff going on in here. And this is what I expect. You got like, it's blending together kind of smoothly like you would expect liquid to blend, right? Again, I mean, it's kind of maybe a little nitpicky, but to me, this looks like garbage. I would not, if I bought a pen blank and that's what I got, I'd be pissed. Here's a couple other examples, and this is where I was noticing it. But you see the edge; it's almost like digital camo looking or something. Which, I mean, okay, maybe I could. I don't know if I could get exactly what I wanted, but I was also getting quite a bit of bleed in a lot of these things. Whereas this is what I expect. Smooth swirls. It's just the edges of this other one it's just weird stuff. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. I've never had this happen to me before. Like sharp, jagged edges where the two colors meet. And I was like, what? But like I said, I think it turned out, I don't know 100% sure, but look at this, all this bleed in this one. I was to the point where I was like, I don't think that I'm going to be able to make these blanks. They're just gross. A lot of like kind of bleeding together, and I think what's happening is it's like fizzing. Even once you get the resin to like the right temperature, it still is like fizzing off like air bubbles and causing weird things to happen. Whereas this is what I expect. Now yellow and dark green, there's a little bit of color bleed in this still, sort of. It just, there's some of these colors, there's no way to avoid it, but you want like, the edges are not like jagged, right? Not really, in most places. It's more smooth. I might have actually waited a little bit long on that pour. If you pour at a higher temperature, it's also going to be a little blocky, but anyway, so yeah, if you're getting a weird issue like that, in your blanks, you might have a moisture issue. And what I think happened is I buy it in like the 10-gallon kit, you know, where there's like a carboy and there's like a breather valve on the top of the thing. I think what happened was I either left it open or didn't get it, you know, it didn't seal correct, you know, fully on one of those carboys, and moisture got in the middle of the summer and it just wrecked that resin. But like I said, I mean, it turned fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It just didn't. If you're trying to swirl colors together, it's a nightmare. It's not going to work. But you know, if all you're doing is like, I had no problems with dead clear. I did some test samples and they turned out perfectly clear. Everything was fine. They turned fine. And then if you're doing like a solid color, like one color or something like that, you're not trying to make swirls in it, everything's fine. But I think it's helpful because I said earlier, if somebody would have emailed me and been like, oh, I'm having this weird thing with my resin, I mean, literally, I would have been like, I don't know, you know, you're pouring it wrong. It's the wrong temperature or something, you know, and that's what I thought it was for a long time in my shop. I was like, it's the temperature, too high of a temperature. The resin's just not working. I'm pouring it wrong. These colors, the dye, it's not going to work. I don't know. You know, I was like, something's wrong. But I think there was something wrong with the resin because I got new resin and everything was fine. So. If the moisture won't adhere to other... No, I don't think that you have to worry about that. The problem was it like expanded and it's like funky. There's a bunch of air... Basically, there's just a bunch of air bubbles in those. So I'm pretty sure I got rid of all of those. I don't think that I let any of those stay in the faux burl things, basically. So... All right, guys. So I think I'm going to get out of here. Let's see here. Just to make sure there's no other questions here. All right, I think so. So next week we'll be back in action. We'll be making a pen. We'll see. I'll have to kind of look and see. Once I pull the blanks out, I'll maybe hold up a couple different kits. I like that element copper. I'm going to kind of see how do I feel about the copper in there. Will that go well? So we'll kind of hold that up and I'll pick a kit and we'll turn one of these guys up. So again, these are going to go in the Pen Blank Club boxes, as well as I'm going to have some for sale on my website. I don't usually do that with the Pen Blank Club. I usually keep them exclusive, but sometimes I do both. Just that way you guys make sure you get them. But I'm going to do like a short run. So there'll be a few of them will be available on my website. So if you're not in the Pen Blank Club, you might still be able to get one of these guys. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening or day, or where, you know, I guess most of you guys are probably getting into the evening. So have a good evening. And thanks for joining the fun, and I will see you guys on the next stream.